How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It's UncleSamsDevil, and today I want to talk to you about my return to one of my favorite games of all time. It's a game that is getting a bit old now, yet despite that, it still stands the test of time. Whether it's slaughtering hordes of the undead, searching for a way to fight the true antagonists of the game, or free running across the rooftops of the slums or Old Town, I feel immersed, and I know that this world is truly mine. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Dying Light. This is, in my opinion, one of the best games of the last decade. But before talking about the gameplay and what makes it so freaking satisfying, I'd like to talk briefly about the sheer beauty of the brutal world that lies before us in the city of Haran, a fictional city inspired by Rio de Janeiro that's located on the Brazilian coast. In Dying Light, the world strikes almost a perfect balance between complete gorgeousness and utter gruesomeness. There isn't just beauty in one area and gore in the next. Instead, they blend together in a way that so rarely occurs in games that every time I boot it up, even almost 6 years after release, I'm blown away. I often find myself in a place high above the fray of the struggle between the undead and the ground floor of a city whose pulse is slowly fading. Much of the time, I'm on a perch at an anxiety-inducing height, easily forgetting the imminent danger that lies below. Many times, it takes a stark, fear and adrenaline-inducing reminder to snap me back to the dark reality, closing its fist around Haran. Dying Light is aesthetically amazing, and that is a standard the gameplay itself holds up to as well. Between the smooth traversal of the city through parkour, or partaking in the immensely satisfying combat and landing in slow motion that final blow on zombies and humans alike, it's extremely addicting. However, this is not the end of what sets Dying Light apart from so many other games. One of the biggest examples of this would be how integral the interiors of buildings are. Buildings, unlike in many other, quote, open world games, are quite important. You search interiors during the day and take refuge in them to avoid volatiles in the dark of the night. They are always interesting, full of detail, and refreshing to explore. While the game was obviously on a budget, as you see many similar interiors and that same bus over and over again, they aren't exact copy and pastes, and there is enough diversity in building types that it never really feels repetitive. Most of the movement in this post-apocalyptic world is all about exploiting its verticality, using parkour techniques to avoid what can only be described as evil lurking below. The world design of Dying Light consistently complements its gameplay mechanics and the story. Because of this, the fact that the story is mediocre at best is irrelevant because the core gameplay is so absurdly above par. From the way one traverses the world, to the savage, bloodthirsty violence that can be inflicted on one's enemies, the gameplay loop is filled to the brim with endless possibilities. One of the main factors that adds to this is the zombie physics, which are perfection. The zombies genuinely are mindless things, many times guided to their own deaths by their instinctual need to chase you into sharp objects or off of the tops of buildings. These quiet moments of watching zombies kill themselves is somehow soothing in its own way, while at the same time, an empty look into their soulless eyes is a perfect demonstration of what is at stake. Techland focused heavily on melee combat during the development of this game. Because of this, nearly every moment of combat is up close and personal. This is better for a zombie world. Thus, melee combat is where close quarters combat mechanics shine. It not only encourages, but makes it vitally important that one faces their fate and comes within inches of the dark forces that could so easily consume them with one wrong move. The melee weapons are not simply basic variants of the same hack and slash mechanics either. The world is full of different kinds of weapons that associate with different skills and playstyles, which interact distinctly in combat. there are several tiers of weapons, weapon types, and tons of blueprints which allow for a player to learn how to craft innumerable game-changing weapon upgrades while letting the combat seem simple on the surface, but also giving an almost immeasurable depth to the amount of options one has when it comes to slaughtering their foes. With this system, many players will be lost, but not before they slay countless enemies by upgrades with fire, electrocution, poisoning, freezing, and more. One important factor which so many other games miss the mark on is how rewarding exploration is in Dying Light. The world feels like it is alive and breathing, and it is overflowing with prizes and Easter eggs to discover. Instead of sticking to a linear story, players are able to create their own experiences, and there is such an incredible amount of them to be had. One of my personal favorite things to do outside of the game's core mechanics is the PvP. There is a mode which players are allowed to opt in or out of, in which a player can play as a zombie and invade the world of other players, fighting a battle across the open world against them and up to 3 of their friends. This is truly awesome, and those who choose to play as zombies have their own progression system through skill trees and a leveling system. It is, in fact, simultaneously some of the funnest and most intense PvP I have ever played in a game, and it rewards those who choose to enter it very well. The most engrossing thing overall about the world is the atmosphere it has, because even without the constant pressure of eating food, drinking water, defecating, and urinating, this feels like a true zombie survival game. The reason being that unlike so many other zombie survival games, the point of this one is actual survival outside of individual goals. It really captures the essence of what it means to survive, not for yourself, but to help save others, build thriving communities, and save humanity from the virus. There are quests everywhere and a wide selection of characters to meet and assist. This helps set the tone for the acknowledgement that in real survival, people form groups and communities. They have different jobs, they trade, and they render aid, not only for the survival of themselves, but for the whole of the species. To be honest, there are so many phenomenal things about this game, and it truly is amazing. Whatever negatives it may have are so easily overshadowed by the things that make it great. I can't help but recommend this game. If you haven't experienced the universe of Dying Light, I highly recommend it. It is a must-have in my eyes. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for this one. If you liked this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to stay updated on my future content. It helps me out and I truly do appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one.